Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to Sign for More Injury Funding, the podcast for all who want to learn about legal funding and its significance in the personal injury, trekking law, workers' compensation, medical malpractice, dog bites, and many other types of law practice domains. I'm your host, Laura, founder and CEO of More Injury Funding, the legal funding counselors with passion for law, medicine, legal funding, and heart for all suffering individuals. More Injury Funding is a sponsor, member, associate board member, or business partner of this podcast, Georgia Trial Lawyers Association, Academy of Trek Accident Attorneys, Sandy Springs Bar Association, Georgia Association for Women Lawyers, GOL for short, Georgia Association of Paralegals, Atlanta Legal Aid Society, State Bar of Georgia, St. Andrew Rowing Club, Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Georgia Council of Chiropractic. In today's episode, I have a special guest, Attorney Kara Vaval, President and founder of Vaval Law, based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Ms. Vaval is a book author, keynote speaker, business development coach, president of Vaval Law, a personal injury law firm, and CEO of the InPowerment Institute, LLC. Kara practices mainly in the area of personal injury. She is a dedicated attorney and counselor of law. Understanding that the attorney-client relationship is based on trust, respect, and confidentiality, Kara is committed to providing her clients with equality legal representation and counseling combined with unparalleled client service. Today, we'll dive deep into the topic of beauty and the law. We will navigate cosmetic and surgical injuries and personal injury cases. At the end of our episode, I have prepared a fun pop-up question for our guests, so stay tuned in. Welcome to Sign for More Injury Funding podcast, Kara.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am very excited to be here.
Same here. So please introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners and tell us about yourself, your educational background, and your law firm.
Absolutely. So like you said, I'm Kara. I have been practicing now 16 years, but I've had my firm for 15 of that. And I came down to South Florida back in 2005 for law school. So I did go to law school out here at Nova Southeastern University, graduated law school, and I started my law firm very unconventional. So I'll tell you a little bit of my backstory because it's very unconventional. So I was working as a securities litigation attorney straight out of law school. And before I found out whether I had passed the bar exam or not, because he had just onboarded me as an associate pending my bar passage, I found out I had passed a pregnancy test. And so
I love it.
Okay, and so here I was. I had, literally no legal experience. I had just started working and I found out I was becoming a mom. And so when my son was born, as much as I wanted to practice law and I wanted to build my career, I also wanted to be mom. And so my job was not offering flexibility of time. And so when I had my son and after he was about 3 months old, I was running out of money from my savings from being on an unpaid maternity leave. I kind of prayed to God and said, I need something. And that something came in the form of a Mary Kay consultant who offered me a facial at a Target. And by the end of the facial, I signed up as a Mary Kay consultant for $100 and started my Mary Kay business with my law degree. And I drove my pink Cadillac to court. And on the heels of that Mary Kay business, I started my law firm.
Wow, that's a story right there. Amazing.
I like to share that because, there's so many people who, think, oh, I can't do this, or so many thoughts of what success would look like. Honestly, you really can chart your own course, right? I started virtual 15 years ago before virtual was sexy. Obviously, COVID showed us that virtual is really the way to go. You keep your overhead low and you're able to maximize your profits. And so I was practicing immigration law and family law for a long time because I am originally from Haiti. It was an easy way to market and it was an easy crowd. We're in South Florida. We had the earthquake in Haiti. There was all types of needs for immigration attorneys back then. And so I built my practice. And one day, one of my clients, a divorce client, we were leaving court after a final dissolution hearing, and she got rear-ended. And she got rear-ended really bad. And she had her daughter in the car. And as I always had back then, I was just referring my people who came to me for personal injury cases to personal injury lawyers that I knew. And sometimes I got my 25% referral, sometimes I didn't. No one really wanted to teach me how to do it. So I just, would just refer them out. And she just did not want to deal with another lawyer. She was insisting that I take the case. And so I said, listen, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'll take the case and I'm going to see what, So you're my guinea pig. So I took the case. And back then, he's not my ex-husband, but my husband back then worked for an insurance company as a bodily injury adjuster. So he was like, if you have a question, feel free to ask. And so sure enough, I took the case, sent her and her daughter for treatment, collected the records, made sure they got the treatment that they needed, and put together a demand. And at the time it was against United, and it was a 1020 policy, and they tendered the 20,000. And I made $6,000 in doing absolutely 2 hours worth of work, right? Like a total of 2 hours worth of work.
Fascinating.
And I was like, oh my God, I am a PI attorney moving forward. Forget all of this.
That was a defining moment of your life.
That was the pivotal moment. And I was like, from here on, I'm doing PI work. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been representing my client zealously, loving what I do. I love giving a voice to the voiceless. I love the fact that someone can come to me and really did not even think that they had a case. And then I turned that into, a really nice result for them. And they're just like, 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. And so that's what I've been doing. And on the side, because of the success that I met in such an unconventional way, there was a point where I had published a book back in 2016. It was a self-development book. And I kind of got pulled to create something to help women lawyers like me shortcut their way to success like me, and not make the mistakes that I made, start their law firms if they choose to do so that they can have the flexibility and so I kind of drafted an outline of what was to be like a course, sent it to the Florida bar. They gave me 11 CLE credits for the course. And so I was like, okay, I got something here, did that. And then I branded the Laptop Lifestyle Lawyer. So I also coach lawyers on how to do what I do. And so that's my story.
Amazing. Truly fascinating. Very unique. Let me tell you that. And Kara, you mentioned the book. What is the name of the book again? And where can we find it?
Yeah. So the book is 28,000 Days, Make Yours Count. And so the average lifespan of a human being is 75 years, which is about 28,000 days, right?
Thanks God, I still have a few years to live.
Right. And so the book is really a compelling story of, obviously, I talk about my life, my journey, my trajectory, and all the ways that life really tried to trip me up, right? And that I still picked myself up by my bootstrap and pressed on, because I only know that I only have 28,000 days. So there is no time to wallow in, what could have been and should have been. Everything that happens in your life happens for you. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you. It's happening to set you up for your next. It's happening to equip you with the mental strength or the life lessons that you need for your next. And so if you can really approach life that way, you're realizing that, you're just pressing forward into the next version of your story and the next version of yourself, and maximizing this life, because you only have one, and every day is a gift, and living your best life is a choice. And whether you see the glass half empty or half full is really up to you. It's both. And so I'm really big on days are counted. My father passed at 42. I just turned 42. So, and I feel like it's such a gift that I'm on to 43 when someone I know very close didn't even have that. And so whatever you've got, however many years you have, it really is your choice how you live it. And it behooves you to live it to the fullest because it's all you got. It's not a
Mhm.
dress rehearsal. We're
Mhm.
live.
Mhm. Cheers to that, and amazing. So today, Kara will be discussing a few major topics that your law firm is known for, and that is cosmetic injuries at large. So let's jump
Correct.
right to it. What constitutes a cosmetic injury, and what factors contribute to maximizing the case value in such situations?
So, cosmetic injuries, many times when I say cosmetic injuries, and I think even you thought about it, it's like, oh, is it because of an implant or a butt lift or BBL, like surgical interventions. And although those are obvious cosmetic injuries, there are many cosmetic injuries that happen on a day-to-day basis that even the injured doesn't even really feel like they're injured enough to have a claim. And that's kind of the niche that I've carved out, including Brazilian wax injuries.
Mm,
That's a cosmetic injury. You go in, it's part of your maintenance routine, and you go ahead and you do that. But this is something you're doing for cosmetic purposes, right? You're wanting to
sure.
look good, wanting to be fresh, and you go in and you sustain a brutal burn down there, right? And
Hmm.
so most women, when that happens, it's uncomfortable, first of all, because the pictures you would have to share are very private. And so that presents an obstacle. And then it's like, well, I kind of went to do that. It's almost like they have it's my fault type of issue, situation with themselves. Like, well, it's kind of something I went and subjected myself to.
Hmm.
It's vanity, quote unquote. But nonetheless, there is a statute in the books that has cosmetic professionals, people that are delivering cosmetic services, that they have to adhere to a certain level of care. And if they fall below that standard of care, they are responsible for those injuries. So that's a very big niche that a lot of people don't really look at. And yet, and I actually have to proactively get the word out because I've had people say, well, that happened to me a year ago. I just didn't think I had a claim. I have these conversations all the time. So I'm proactively putting content out about that so that it's like, no, you do have a claim, right? Lip fillers, same thing. It's something that somebody goes, I get my lip filled and whatever, and it's fine all the time. And then that one time, I have one side of my lip is drooping or I've got an infection. What do I do with that? And so that's another form of a cosmetic injury that is not surgical. It's not something that, somebody went under the knife for, but nonetheless is injured and disfigured. I recently had someone who did a chemical peel and
Mm,
it went terrible. And, she kept telling the person, listen, my face is burning.
mm,
And she's like, oh no, you're good. It's part of the process. Well, this is a young lady who's in her early 30s. No matter how much sunblock she has obviously she looks like me, she has pigmented skin. No matter how much sunblock she puts on, she goes in the sun and her whole side of her face gets super dark.
mm.
And she's in the beauty business.
Oh,
And
wow.
so she's been very affected, even more so than some of us that don't use our face as much. She's
Mm,
out there on camera. She's always, having to hide and cover, and those are damages that she wouldn't have had to deal with had this person not messed up, right?
mm,
And so, I mean, the list goes on. I recently had someone who did a PRP injection,
mm,
and PRP injections are supposed to be nice little anti-aging procedures that we do. You use your own blood and you use it so that you can tighten your skin, except
mhm.
if the blood is mishandled and it gets bacteria in it because the professional is not doing it in the most clean environment. Well, guess what? This client ended up with an infectious disease doctor for a year.
Mm,
And with all of these antibiotics in her system, with all of the damage that it has done, in her early 30s, all of that, when you ask how do you present your claim
mhm.
and damages, these are damages that are going to, last a lifetime. You disfigure someone, that's a lifetime, whether it's on the face or whether it's in, their private.
Anywhere.
Because
Mhm.
anywhere, because you have this particular case that I had recently. This girl now is very self-conscious. She's a single mom, newly divorced, and she's in the dating scene, and
Mhm.
she's very conscious that it doesn't look the same anymore, right? And
Mhm.
so those kinds of things, you got to be able to explain it to an adjuster, especially an adjuster who may not have that body part, right? And explain to them like what that is for the person subjectively. And so that's what I do, and I love it. So
Mhm.
I love
And
what I do, putting words to someone's pain.
I know. And Kara, do you see clients only in Florida, or do you see anybody within the nationwide?
Well, nationwide, because I do pre-suit work. If we do have to get into litigation, obviously I have to work with attorneys that are local.
Mhm.
But as far as like, yeah, the pre-suit part, I counsel and work with them. Yeah.
Great. Good to know. Good to know. So, what are the common types of cosmetic injuries and how do they impact the overall value of a personal injury case?
So, like I just said, your lip fillers, your Brazilian wax, your burns. So there's people who get burned from chemicals that they use, like keratin or texturizers in their hair, or even curling irons and things like that that happen. And so, how do we maximize the value? So, for someone like, there's twofold. Obviously, you have the mental impact, the psychological impact, because of the insecurities that come as a result of that. So there is some emotional distress that does occur in these situations. And then you look at the scarring and the disfigurement, and how long is that going to last? Some people, they heal. Some people heal faster than others. And you can kind of, see there's people that they keloid. For example, the skin turns into this little hardened ball, where someone else, it wouldn't be the case. And so being able to look at each particular individual, and what I do, and I do this with all my personal injury clients, not just the cosmetic ones, whether it's a car accident, slip and fall, whatever accident you're in, I always urge my clients to keep notes and a journal of what they're experiencing, what their limitations that they now are aware of that has occurred as a result of the injury. So
Mhm.
someone who used to be, ready to go out and wear, able to wear short shorts or whatever, and now feels like, okay, I can't wear this and I can't do this, or I have to put this much coverage on my face because I'm like, what is happening on your day to day? Take note of that.
Mhm.
Because when I turn around and I want to explain to the insurance company how this has impacted you in particular, not everybody else, you, I have to be able to do that, And if you have a partner, even asking your partner what's changed in your mood, you have people in
Mhm.
your home, your children, if there's people that could see how this has impacted you, having them kind of even reflect to you so that you can be able to keep track, because something happens to you one day, and let's say we're filing, we're sending a demand 6 months later, it's easy to forget, right? Because you're not in that moment. And so I have my clients do that. And sometimes they'll even send me these little voice notes. I use this app. And so it's Voxer, and they just leave voice notes of how they're feeling. And then we
Okay.
have that, and we can keep track of that so that we can use that at, when we're making the claim and when we're negotiating with the insurance company.
I love your voice messaging tool. That's amazing. Can you share examples of successful cases where you were able to maximize your client's compensation for cosmetic injuries?
Oh, I have many. So I recently had a client who she came to me, and she had a tear from a wax injury. And when she was leaving the facility, the manager offered her $500
Oh.
the injury. Like they said they're sorry, they
Mhm.
wouldn't charge her for the treatment, and $500. And so she called me, and she actually was a little she had reservations about even hiring me in the beginning. And then she said, I should I take it? And I said, absolutely not. Like, no, let me get the case, let me help you. The reality was that she was in a town outside of she was traveling, so she was
Ah,
not home. And so she kind of went to a random, place and got the wax job. And because she wasn't going to stay there, she didn't feel like she could pursue the claim. I said, you don't need to stay local to them to be able to pursue a claim. Let me
mhm,
get the information. And I presented her claim, explained how this completely screwed up her vacation. She was on a vacation that entailed bathing suits and all. And so she couldn't go in the water. She couldn't do, it's like, and
mhm.
we got her $60,000.
Amazing. Wow.
$60,000 from $500.
Wow.
And so, right. Recently had another one that we had a $75,000 outcome for. And with her, she had a lot of blood loss. She was on
Mm,
blood thinners. And so as a result of the cut, there was a lot of bleeding happening, and her husband had to come and they had to go. So the
mm,
trauma that came, so it's the same kind of injury, but her situation was more traumatic than
mm,
the other one.
mhm,
One lost a summer vacation, the
mm,
other one was bleeding nonstop. And
mm,
so, you have that. And so those are the kinds of results that we can get. And then, you'll get the one where it's just a soft burn, a superficial thing. And, they gave you $30,000 for the inconvenience and for, the discoloration maybe.
mhm,
So it all depends on the case, but these are the kinds of results. So when someone who has an injury like that decides not to pursue it because they think they don't have a case, and they're leaving a lot of money on the table. I mean, talking about a lot of money. And so, when I get an occasion like this to come and speak on a platform that can reach more people, I want to get that word out is, you know, don't think that because it's, you went there because it's quote unquote vanity, or you really, you're not responsible for someone's neglect. Someone
mm,
does something, even if it's in the course of something that would be called a, vanity type of activity, the responsibility to deliver it non-negligently is still there. And if
mm,
you've been hurt, then you've got to present a claim because you have one.
mhm. Good to know. Good to know. How do you approach providing liability and demonstrating the extent of damages in cases involving cosmetic injuries?
Well, the liability usually, especially in, like, say, a wax injury case, it's clear. The professional was delivering a service and caused the injury. Where I can sometimes get into a little liability tiff, I guess, and I recently did in a PRP case, was where the attorney, actually I was working directly with an attorney, not even with the insurance company, where he tried to claim that it wasn't a contamination of the blood, it was a reaction from the client.
Mhm,
Except that the client had received this PRP before without having the infection and having never reacted negatively to that procedure. And so I have to use the medical records. I've got to get the doctors to make sure that it's clear in the records that, this was the cause. This is the reason why this person got injured. And so just to really circumvent this liability issue. But most of the time, the person who is administering the product or the service is the professional that I'm going after. And the negligence is pretty clear at that point. It's, if you did not do that, it wouldn't have happened. If you use, let's say, more powder in the area, the wax wouldn't have stuck to the skin and peeled it off. That's something that we all know. That's what you do when you're waxing. And so, you're injecting someone with a lip filler and the lip is droopy. It's obviously there's either too much or too little administered on either side of the lips, right? And so, and I always have my clients send me pictures of, like, I have a client who has pictures of her before when she had a previous lip filler done and she was fine. And so now, obviously, these new pictures show that, she had them before. It's not, this was just a refill, right? And so your refill wasn't adequate. The person who did it before did it well, and it was fine. And so those are the ways that you're able to show that, the job wasn't done well. And so the client is entitled to compensation as a result of that.
Fascinating. What role does expert testimony and evidence play in strengthening a personal injury case involving cosmetic injuries?
Well, in my situation, because I'm not really going into litigation, I'm not really working with experts. But evidently, if we're going in the context of surgical, right? So at that point, experts are necessary because you're trying to prove that someone went below the standard of care of a surgeon, right? And so you could find another surgeon and deal with that. In my case, a lot of what I do is very pre-suit, and it's very it's pretty straightforward. And so I don't have the need for an expert. I just base my claims on the medical records. And the part that where my job is to just make sure that those records are clear and supportive of what the client actually went through and documents it. And that's why I even say, in my content, I tell clients, you're not going to tell your doctor what to write in the notes. You can't. The doctor's going to write what the doctor's going to write. However, if you already know that this is something you're going to present a claim for, make sure that you're thorough in what you're communicating, and even ask to see that it was actually transcribed in the notes, because you want to make sure that when I go ahead and I submit that to the insurance company, that it's clear what happened and it's documented, and it's supportive of your claim.
I'm glad you mentioned that. How do you negotiate with insurance companies or defendants to ensure fair compensation for your clients with cosmetic injuries resulting from personal injury cases?
Well, it's simple. I've been doing this for a long time, so I know the value of the cases. I know the value of different cases. I know what we all know now, like if you do enough car accident cases, you know what a herniation is worth, you know what a bulge is worth, you know what a surgical intervention is worth. So I obviously, I always shoot high because I want to leave plenty room for negotiation. Of course, the insurance company is always going to try to shoot as low as possible, right? And then the conversation just goes on throughout the process. And it's really, how do I make this person as whole as possible for what they went through, right? We understand that there's where something occurs in the body also makes a difference. Something that is hidden versus injury that is very conspicuous, let's say on someone's face, has a completely different value than somewhere where no one is looking. If the person is, like I said, a public figure and is on camera all the time and has the need to utilize their face more than the next person, obviously you're going to have to compensate for that. And so the conversation in negotiation is always about who the client is. Who is the plaintiff? My plaintiff is who I am representing, and my plaintiff is different. This plaintiff is different than the next. And so depending on what the damage is and the length of time that this person is going to have to deal with these injuries, right? Because again, let's say, again, I'm comparing a chemical peel, let's say from Brazilian wax, right? The Brazilian wax person is dealing with the aftermath of the injury very differently than the one who has this thing on her face. And especially living in a state like South Florida, where the sun is chasing you no matter where you want to go, right? And so
constantly.
You can't hide. And so if your skin now is literally turning into an allergic terrain for sun, but you live here, the amount of time and effort that this is taking out of your life is a lot more than the person with the wax injury. So I make these, I draw these differences for the adjuster to understand, and I paint the picture of this person's life. This is what her day-to-day used to be like, and now this is what she has to do just to get through the day. And so you've got to compensate her for every single piece of inconvenience that is now part of her day that
Mhm.
wasn't before because your person couldn't take the damn chemical peel off fast enough, or, didn't realize that pigmented skin could not tolerate this product. That was your person's job to know. My
Mm.
client was just here paying her money, trusting that this person knew what she was doing, and she's licensed. So she is subject to the statute. So, it's kind of,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? Work with
Very,
me.
very interesting,
So
fascinating
those are the
topic.
kinds of conversation. And sometimes I'll get a little, sarcastic, and I'll even start taking, if this happened to your mother, or do you have kids? Like, how would you like that to happen to your daughter? And now she's like this, and now and they feel it, because when you start talking about their world, if you have somebody in your world who gets hurt like that, how would you feel? This
Absolutely.
is what I want you to feel, because that's what I feel for her.
Exactly. So, Kara, what strategies would you recommend employing that would highlight the impact of cosmetic injuries on a client's quality of life and well-being, ultimately increasing the case value?
So the first one, and I mentioned it earlier, is the journaling. The journaling is really the best way. And like I said, the voice noting, for the client to, up to the minute, be able to capture what they're experiencing, right? Because you can feel a certain way powerfully in a moment, and then that moment passes, and then, it's no longer such a big deal in your head. And so you don't capture that, you'll never be able to memorialize that again to me later on. So if the client, if you coach your client to do those things, they can powerfully capture at all times all of the ways that they've been impacted. So that way, again, between when the client onboards and starts treating and goes through their process, and you writing the demand, there's such a gap of time where, if those things are not captured, it lands flat by the time you do want to go ahead and get it out. Because, ultimately, one of the things that I don't think they state enough in law school or in our legal world is that lawyers, we are storytellers. Okay, we are hired to tell a story. That's what we're doing. That's why we say we are the voice of the voiceless. What does that mean? It's, you don't know how to tell your story in this realm, in this legal world. So I'm going to tell your story, and I'm going to put all the legal stuff in there. And so for me to handle your story with full integrity, and to really capture what really happened to you, I need all the notes. I need you to, because I got to step into your shoes and be able to get it out and paint the picture for the insurance company in a way that lands exactly how you wanted to say it, right? If, for example, I have clients that, even when they say that they're putting the dishes in the dishwasher, bending to do that, and how the back pain from the accident is like that feeling. I want to tell the insurance company, even when she's tucking her bed sheets, she's feeling the pain. Like, these are simple things that we're supposed to be able to do without pain, that now this person has to do with pain. And so you've got to compensate her for that. So my job is, again, as a storyteller, to tell your story. But for me to tell your story, I need really good cliff notes. So I need you to memorialize your everyday experience as my client somewhere. And again, the voice notes are good because the voice notes allow me to capture the emotion that the person is feeling more so than the writing. And
Mhm.
so that gives me more insight, because you'll hear somebody, I have some clients, and then, you hear, oh, I can't, you hear the pain and the distress in
Mm.
their voice. When I'm writing, I can now translate that into a word, but if I didn't hear distress, I can't talk about your distress, because I wasn't aware of your distress as your
Abs-
lawyer.
Absolutely. And what program or app do you use for those voice messages?
I use Boxer. I use Boxer for a lot of things, even my coaching clients. So the reason why I use Voxer is because it's a great little walkie-talkie voice note thing. I can speed it up to 4 times faster because some clients go very long-winded
Of
and I
course.
don't want to get to where they're trying to get to. So I can do that. But also it's where I keep all things business so that whenever I get those messages, I know their priority. And it has a feature where you can just transcribe.
Mm.
And so once I get the voice note, not only can I hear it, I can just transcribe it and put it in the notes in the client's file. It's easy.
Amazing, amazing. Love the AI part of it.
I'm all AI. Listen,
Same
if
here,
there's an
same here.
AI that can do it, I'm with it, you know?
Yes, we
So
live in the
I
new
use
century where we can.
Otter a lot. I use Otter AI a lot to transcribe because again, we're in a digital world. We're in a world where all things are happening that are content. And so one of the things that I do when I coach my clients, my law clients, when they're just like, oh my God, how am I going to do all this content? I have clients. I'm like, content proliferation. Okay, my friend.
Mhm.
You record it on screen, then you pull the transcript with Otter, right? You take because the video is for, and I'm going to tell you this, and you can
I'm
totally
writing this down.
listen. You record because I have my podcast as well, right? So I record here, and that's YouTube. Then I take the MP3, that's the podcast. Then I take the MP3 and I put it in Otter, and I pull that. That's the blog. And within the blog now, there's quotes, there's blurbs, there's different things, there's captions, there's all types of things you can do. And so if you're going to record one piece of content, make sure you turn it into at least a dozen.
All these other different sources. Absolutely. Such a wonderful idea. Uh,
Right? So yeah, I'm efficient. Listen, with
yes, I can
everything we
tell.
do, we've got to do so many things and be so many places, and it's almost unrealistic. If you're a busy professional and you add on kids and you add on, a personal life, where do you get time to do all this stuff if you're not using AI and if you're not, I don't want to say cutting corners, but you kind of have to, make one thing used for many, many different things. But
I'm
yes.
I'm so with you on that. So how do you collaborate with medical professionals since we talked about pain, the physical and mental and emotional suffering. So how do you collaborate with medical professionals and specialists to accurately assess the long-term effects and costs associated with cosmetic injuries in personal injury cases?
Yeah. So say, and it's the same way I collaborate with doctors and medical professionals in all my cases. And so when I get a case, it's not just, oh, this is a case and we're going to run it through a process. We do have obviously a process that we know that is linear, that certain clients are going to go through. You got to go treat. You have to do, we're going to get the MRI. Based on what the MRI says, we'll know what to do, in cases like personal, like slip and falls or car accidents and things like that. And so we collaborate with doctors in the sense of getting well-documented files ready for the demand process. When it comes to cosmetic injuries, it's no different. It's what did this person go through? What do they need in order to get better? What's the treatment going to be if there is treatment? Some people, they just need to heal, right? And so the holistic approach that we have, it's how did this person get affected, not just physically, but mentally? Because there's a mental aspect to it. It's a trauma. It's a trauma, even if it's physical, it has a mental repercussion. So how do we approach that? So I work with the various professionals that can treat the client and be able to give me a holistic view on that particular client. Now, also, in the case of someone like, I keep going back to the chemical peel, or I can even bring you to some people that had really nasty scars left behind by a cosmetic procedure gone bad.
Mhm.
That person may need a revision, may need another surgery. So working with professionals to do corrective procedures, that's something that we have to look at. So each case is different, and some cases require more professionals than others, but we continue to build relationships in the area. I'm always out either lunching, marketing, working with, so I have people all over town that if I need someone for my client, it's not at that point that I'm figuring, oh, who can I call? I already know who to call, and I already have seen this person's facility. I know this person's staff. I can tell them who to talk to at the front desk. I have the information. I already have the 411 in the office. And so that's something that I think is very important as lawyers. And I do it. Some doctors say to me, "Oh, you're the first lawyer to ever come here." I go look at the people's offices. I look at my doctor's offices, and I make sure that these are places that I would want my mom to go to, right? These are places that I would want my sister to go to. Or, I would not want to just send a client somewhere and then they're telling me, "Oh my God, this was not what I thought." And so doing that due diligence and having those relationships ahead of time, when the client comes, you already know from top to bottom, these are the people I'm going to need you to see throughout the process so that we can give you, the full range of services that you're going to need in order to get back to as whole as possible. Because, that's all you can do is as whole as possible.
Absolutely. So what legal considerations should individuals, based on your experience, be aware of when pursuing compensation for cosmetic injuries?
They have to know that it's not just a physical, for sure. There's the physical aspect of it. There's the short-term physical damage. There's the long-term physical damage. There's the disfiguration or disfigurement that occurred. There is the mental. There is also the loss of consortium of the partner, right? Some people don't even think about the partner. What if you cannot, excuse me, I mean, we're all adults here, but what if you cannot have sex with your husband for 2-3 weeks because you are, you're burning down there because of a procedure? That person has a recourse. What if you're now in a mild depression and you can't deal with your kids, because they're asking you a gazillion questions and you are in a low state because of something that's happening with you physically, because you are feeling self-conscious about yourself. All those things, you don't think about it, but it's a human you're dealing with. The human is very complex, and the impact of a physical injury is way deeper than the physical aspect of it. And so those are all recourses. Lost wages, some people lose time from work, loss of enjoyment of life. Right? If you cannot go outside as much as you wanted, as you used to, or you're a golfer. Like, for example, me, if I got a chemical burn that prevented me from going in the sun, my therapy is tennis. I have to be in the sun to even get my day going, because that's how I get all my endorphins and all of my, right? That's
your happiness, your yin and yang, yes.
My all of it. That's where I get activated. And can you imagine if I can't go in the sun because of something like that? Do you realize the level of impact you're talking about? So all of that is damages, and all of those are legal damages. These are things that you are entitled to. And so and as you can see, I like to talk. Okay, so that I'm very thorough with the client, and I let them know ahead of time. I don't have a communication problem whatsoever when it comes to my clients, because I'm very clear, because we're a team. I'm here as your voice, but you're the captain of the ship, right? They understand that that's the position. So I'm going to help you steer the legal way, but it's your case, it's your voice, it's your injury. We've got to make sure that everything you're entitled to, because we only got one shot. We can't come back. So we have one shot to get it right. And if we're going to maximize your results, and we're going to maximize your recovery, then we've got to make sure that everything you're entitled to, we look at and we address, and we also bring it to the table.
In what ways can legal representation help individuals navigate the complexities of cosmetic injury cases, optimizing their claims and secure the maximum value for their personal injury case?
It's clear. Like I told you, this person was offered 500 without me. With me, it was 60,000.
Mm.
You know, we know how to verbalize this stuff. Again, we know this industry. We're in this industry. I think that someone who takes a personal injury case of their own, and, you know, in law school, they would always say a lawyer who has himself for a client is a moron, right? I can't represent myself even I'm an attorney and I wouldn't represent myself in the legal world. If I have a case, I will hire someone to work for an injury case is different because, you know, there's no real emotion into it for me. It's, you know, but with regards to a client, a plaintiff who's been hurt, hire a lawyer. Hire a lawyer. I know you have to give up a third of your case as, you know, attorney's fees, but the results you will get will be a gazillion times more what you would get on your own. The insurance company knows that you don't know what you're doing. They're gonna lowball you and they're going to throw you a couple peanuts, you know, just so that you can get out. And they know you don't even realize the impact, again, long term, that this can have on you or your family, or, you know, just in general. You are not thinking the way the lawyer is thinking about everything that you're actually do. And so that's what lawyers do. We enhance the value of your case tremendously because of the knowledge that we have, because of the things we look for that you wouldn't even think to look at. And we basically leave no stone unturned and maximize your case that way. So that's just the way to go, period. I mean, I know obviously I'm self-interested by saying that, but it's because I know, especially my firm and what we do, the value that we bring to the client's case. It's bar none. You cannot do it by yourself.
Hmm. This is so great again, Kara. I hope this episode about beauty and the law, navigating cosmetic injuries and personal injury cases, was informative and educational. And as promised, here's a fun pop question for you, my dear. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Where can people find out more about you and your work besides your law firm?
Yeah. So if you go to karavaval.com, it's kind of like my hub. You can find all things that I do there. And I'm on social media, Kara Vaval ESQ. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, all platforms, really. We do have also a YouTube channel. So if you just pop my name actually on Google at this point, you know, you'll find me. I've so much content out. I've been doing this for quite some time. And so, yeah. And my law firm is Vaval Law. We do all things personal injury, but really this corner of the market that I've kind of, niched a little bit down to has been really fulfilling for me because it's a lot of people who didn't think they had a claim that I'm able to help present claims. And it's just so, it's an awesome area of personal injury.
Kara, that was such an amazing time spent with you today. And you mentioned that you have a couple platforms as far as social media. Where can people find you? What is actually your website and your phone numbers and
Yeah,
all
so
other
my
platforms?
website is karavaval.com, KARAVAVAL.com. And so from there, there's all types of links to lead you other places. My social media is also my name, Kara Vaval ESQ. So they can find me there. If you want to call me directly at the law firm, it's 833 Vaval Law. 833 Vaval Law is where you can call us as far as if there's an injury or any kind of personal injury law stuff that we would need to help out. And that's it. I'm findable.
Easily with social media and through my
Easily.
podcast.
Nowadays,
Excellent.
again, that's why I say just pop it into Google. You'll find my contacts everywhere.
I absolutely love it. That was again a personal injury attorney, Kara Vaval, with a Vaval firm based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I want to thank you all for listening and watching our story today. For more tips and tricks on legal funding and personal injury related topics, follow me, download, like, and subscribe. For It's Time for More Injury Funding podcasts on several podcast platforms, including but not limited to Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, and all others worldwide. And follow More Injury Funding on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, Google Business business profile and my website at moreinjuryfunding.com with two O's. I can't wait to see you, my dear listeners and viewers, at my next upcoming episode. Until then, see you then. Thank you.